입장에서 할 수 있어서 너무 신기하고 새로운 경험이었습니다.
맞아요. 또 저희가 버스킹 이번이 처음이었는데 인스타그램과 함께 할 수 있어서 너무너무 행복했습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. 또 저희 첫사랑이 서산을 대표해서 이렇게 멋있는 퍼포먼스 보여드릴 수 있어서 너무 뿌듯하고 행복한 하루였습니다.
맞습니다. はい、日本のマームの皆さん、私たちが今回ソウルじゃなくてソサンという場所に来ました。なので皆さんも海とかいろんな場所を日本でじゃなくて韓国でも楽しんでいってください。ソサン来てください。来てください。ソサン来てください。레스트도 땐 서산으로 놀러 오세요.
까무.
까무.
We bring you the latest cultural issues from Korea, from entertainment and media to trends. Alongside what's trending in Korea, we also deliver Hallyu news from abroad and sit down for an interview with people who are committed to spreading Korean traditional culture. Feel the pulse of Korean culture on The Culture Wave. A mini documentary for those who aren't sure what they like yet. Taste Log. See how personal taste can shape our approach to spaces, objects, and hobbies. Discover your own interests among myriad stories of different people's tastes. A stimulating record to enrich your daily life. Taste Log. Culture Crunched, delivered in the voice of our host, Joel.
So in English, it means
From analyzing K-pop lyrics to listening to live performances by musicians from home and abroad, as well as meeting people from all walks of life. We explore a different theme every day, expanding your view of culture and the world beyond in one bite. Culture Crunch. Simply K-pop, gateway to Korea. Delivering the full energy of a concert, not only to the studio audience, but also to the fans around the world. Stunning choreography, powerful singing, and rookie energy. Don't miss these dynamic scenes. After the performance, experience a heartfelt moment of connection in the fan Q&A session.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. With around 20 days left until the tariff deadline, U.S. President Donald Trump says he has left the door open to further trade talks. But he went on to claim that Washington has been taken advantage of in trade and military matters. And the U.S. leader has now given his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin 50 days to end the war in Ukraine, saying he will impose severe tariffs if the deadline is not met. It's day 2 of confirmation hearings for President Lee Jae-myung's inaugural cabinet picks, set to run until Friday. Nominees for national defense, veterans affairs, SMEs and startups, and environment are set to appear before the National Assembly today. U.S. President Donald Trump referred to the letters he sent about tariff rates as the deals with U.S. trading partners, but stressed that more trade talks could still happen. Meanwhile, South Korea's top trade negotiator faced the media on Monday, saying that negotiations have made progress. Our Isujin starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump left the door open to further trade talks, even as he maintained that the letters he sent regarding tariff rates are the deals with U.S. trading partners. Speaking at the White House on Monday during a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump told reporters the deals are already made.
The letters are the deals. The deals are made. There are no deals to make. They would like to do a different kind of a deal, and we're always open to talk. We are open to talk, including to Europe.
This comes after Trump sent letters to 25 countries notifying them of their blanket tariff rates, starting with South Korea and Japan on July 7 with a 25% rate, followed by the EU and Mexico with a 30% rate. The letters also noted the extension of the effective date for reciprocal tariffs to August 1st, pushing back the previous July 9 deadline. Meanwhile, Trump said the U.S. has been taken advantage of in trade and military matters. He posted on his social media Truth Social on Monday saying that for decades the country has been ripped off on trade and military, adding it has come at a cost of trillions of dollars. However, he did not name any specific country in the post. With less than 3 weeks to go before sweeping U.S. tariffs take effect, South Korea's Trade Minister Yo Han-gu says negotiations with Washington have entered what he calls game time. Speaking to reporters Monday at the Sejong government complex, Yo stressed with under 20 days left, it's now a time for choices and decisions. He added that Seoul is ramping up give-and-take talks to find a landing zone, aiming to secure a broad package deal. And amid U.S. demands to lower trade barriers, Yo also touched on a sensitive topic for the country, the agricultural industry. The trade minister said free trade talks, not just with the U.S. but with any other trade partners, are always, quote, painful. Yo, however, underscored the need for strategic judgment as despite the pain for the agro sector, Korean industry as a whole has taken steps forward from trade deals made in the past. Isujin, Arirang News.
So as the Trump administration continues to pressure Seoul and other trading partners, South Korean goods will be hit with 25% tariffs starting August 1st if the government fails to reach a trade agreement. For more on what to expect, we're joined by Professor Lee Yoon-soo, Professor of Economics at Seogang University. Professor Lee, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So how much impact will the 25% reciprocal tariffs have on the Korean economy?
The 25% tariffs as written in the letter by President Trump will likely have a major negative impact on the Korean economy. First, Korea is one of the most export-dependent countries in the world. Exports make up over 40% of its GDP, and the United States is Korea's second largest trading partner. We are already seeing signs of stress. Exports to the U.S. dropped by over 8% in May compared to a year ago, and Korean GDP in the first quarter of this year declined year-on-year basis for the first time since the pandemic. The Bank of Korea has already cut its 2025 growth forecast just 0.8%. This reflects the expected damage from the tariffs. And the IMF also downgraded Korea's outlook because of the major external shock. If these tariffs remain in place, we'll likely see a very sharp slowdown in the second half of the year, especially in industries like automobile, electronics, and machinery. These are key to Korea's exports. So these tariffs will not only hurt trade, but also weaken the business confidence and investment sentiment. That's what we worried.
Right, you just mentioned the automobile industry, and it seems the auto and steel industries will likely be the hardest hit. And major steel producers in Korea have already seen a decline in revenue in the second quarter. How should these challenges be addressed?
So, as you just mentioned, auto steel are the among the hardest hit. So, in response, automakers are expanding U.S. production, especially for electronic vehicles, to bypass tariffs and protect market share. And they are also diversifying export to regions like Southeast Asia and Europe, and focus on high-value products where demand is more stable. Steel makers are also restructuring global assets, exiting unprofitable operation and exploring joint ventures in the U.S. The problem is that increasing local production in the U.S. may be a smart strategy for Hyundai and Kia and steelmakers because this will avoid tariffs and maintain sales. But from a national perspective, it's not entirely positive because this means less production and fewer jobs in Korea and more technology and capital flowing abroad. So while the firms may benefit, the Korean economy could face hollowing out risk over time. This is why policymakers are negotiating very hard. At the policy level, Korea is pushing for tariff relief through the diplomatic channels, and they also review trade remedies against low-cost imports.
All right, that sounds very concerning. And what might a possible trade agreement look like? What's the minimum Korea must secure in the trade agreement to sort of minimize the impact of tariffs?
So a possible trade deal would likely include targeted exemptions or tariff reduction. So the lower rate is very important, especially for autos and steelmakers, because these are the most exposed sectors. One option is a tariff rate quota, where a limited volume of exports enters the U.S. at the lower rate of tariff or zero tariffs. This model already exists for steel with some other countries. Korea should also push for exemptions on key items like electronic vehicles, batteries, and auto parts. These are critical to U.S. supply chains. The minimum goal, if you ask, is to protect core export industry and give companies time to adjust. Even a very partial deal, such as a lower rate in certain sectors, could reduce the shock and keep supply chains stable.
I see. And unseasonably high temperatures in Korea are pushing up food prices right now, especially for fruits and vegetables. The price of a single watermelon is almost 30,000 Korean won. What measures do you think the government will have to take to tame inflation?
Yes, food inflation is becoming a real concern, especially with fruit and vegetable prices soaring due to extreme heat. A watermelon price now costs over $20. That's a big shock for many households, including my family last weekend. And in the short term, the government may release public stockpiles or reduce import tariffs on key items. And they may offer targeted subsidies to stabilize supply. But this is also a climate issue. If extreme weather becomes more frequent, we'll need longer-term investments in agricultural technology, such as smart farming and climate-resistant crops. That's a big investment for the agricultural sector, I think. Food inflation hits low and middle-income families the hardest. So prices must also include temporary support for these vulnerable groups. Overall, this is not just about the short-term price controls. It's about building resilience in the food system to deal with future climate shocks.
Right, I guess it's now up for the government to tame those inflation. All right, Professor Lee, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And U.S. President Donald Trump has also issued a 50-day deadline for Russia to end its war with Ukraine. Trump threatened that Washington will impose very severe tariffs on Moscow if the deadline is not met. Our Isingjae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning to Russian President Vladimir Putin to finally put an end to the war in Ukraine. During a meeting with reporters alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in the Oval Office on Monday, Trump said Washington will impose very severe tariffs on Moscow in 50 days if there is no deal made to end the war.
It's a horrible war, and it should be stopped. And so if it's not done, if we don't have an agreement in 50 days, that's what we're doing, secondary tariffs. And they're biting. And I hope we don't get to the point where we do, but I've been hearing.
This would mean 100% tariffs on Russian goods and secondary sanctions on purchasers of Russian oil. The move would also target Russia's trading partners in order to further isolate Moscow from the global economy. President Trump also announced a deal which will allow NATO member countries to purchase American-made weapons, which would be allowed to be given to Ukraine.
The deal we've made, this is billions of dollars worth of military equipment is going to be purchased from the United States, going to NATO, etc. And that's going to be quickly distributed to the battlefield.
The NATO chief said large numbers of weapons would be sent, including missiles, as part of its first wave of equipment to Ukraine. Meanwhile, with the news of military aid to Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed gratitude to President Trump for his readiness to protect Ukrainian lives.
I'm grateful to President Trump for his readiness to support the protection of our people's lives.
The latest deadline issued by Trump, along with a deal to provide Ukraine with American weapons, comes as the U.S. leader has been frustrated with the lack of progress Putin has made in committing to a ceasefire deal. Iseung-jae, Arirang News.
Direct passenger flights connecting Pyongyang and Moscow are expected to begin operating on July 27th. According to Russia's Transport Ministry on Monday local time, Russia's Nordwind Airlines will operate a direct route connecting the Russian and North Korean capitals. The move comes as the airline requested approval from Russia's Federal Agency for Air Transport last month to allow a direct route between Moscow and Pyongyang twice a week, and received the approval last week. Currently, the only flights between Russia and North Korea are between Vladivostok and Pyongyang. The Moscow-Pyongyang flight will take about 8 hours. Now, on the local front, confirmation hearings for President Lee Jae-myung's inaugural cabinet picks are set to continue throughout this week at the National Assembly. On day one of the hearings, rival parties engaged in fiery discussions over allegations involving the nominees. Our political correspondent Shin Ha-young has the details.
The Assembly confirmation hearings for President Lee Jae-myung's first cabinet got off to a rocky start, with tensions between the rival parties prompting some sessions to be delayed or suspended. National Assembly standing committees held 4 hearings on Monday, including those for the nominees for unification, science, oceans, and gender equality ministers. In South Korea, cabinet appointments are subject to parliamentary hearings but do not require legislative approval to take effect. While the main opposition People Power Party has vowed to examine the nominees' qualifications and moral integrity, claiming many are unfit and should step down, the ruling Democratic Party is backing the nominees, saying there are no critical flaws.
The Democratic Party will support the swift formation of the Lee Jae-myung administration's cabinet to ensure smooth governance and help stabilize state affairs.
The Lee Jae-myung administration's first cabinet lineup is completely flawed. None of the nominees are qualified. There are concerns that the hearings will just become a stage for baseless excuses and lies.
During the hearing for Unification Minister, nominee Chung Dong-young emphasized the need to improve relations between South and North Korea and restore peace on the Korean peninsula. He also said the ministry's name should be reconsidered and discussed in the National Assembly, suggesting Ministry of the Korean Peninsula as one possible option. Chung has been stressing that renaming the ministry would help focus on making peace on the Korean Peninsula a top priority.
The Jae-myung administration needs a fresh start. As part of that, I believe it's time to consider changing the name of the Ministry of Unification.
Kang Sun-woo, a DP lawmaker nominated for Minister of Gender Equality, faced a rough start to her hearing amid intense debates over allegations of workplace abuse. With 18 nominees, including 16 ministerial candidates, scheduled to appear before the National Assembly over the course of the week, the political standoff between the rival parties is expected to continue. 신하영, Arirang News.
While most are staying indoors to beat the heat, some are sprinting right into it. And they're not doing it alone. Our Park Hyo-bin has a story.
It's 7 p.m. on a humid summer evening, but the heat hasn't stopped these runners. People stretch, chat, and tie their shoelaces, getting ready for their weekly run.
I really feel like I've become healthier through running. Even when it's tough in the summer, I think of it as a double XP event, so I push myself even harder.
When I run with the crew, I get more energy from the people around me. I end up running further than I could on my own, and I enjoy it more too.
They're the Seoul Running Crew, a free community running program held at 3 locations across Seoul. Every Thursday evening, runners meet up and split into beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels.
Right now, I'm running with the crew members here at Seoul Yeouido Park, and even when the sun's nearly gone down, the heat is intense and so is the energy.
Led by professional coaches, including former national athletes, participants are guided safely based on their pace and fitness levels. Since this season kicked off in April, all 60 spots at each location have been fully booked every single week. To support this growing fitness trend, the city has even revamped its infrastructure. Take Yeouido Station right in the heart of Seoul's business district. It now features a runner station, a dedicated facility for joggers equipped with lockers and changing rooms, so office workers can head straight out for a run after work. The station also offers live weather updates, UV levels, and wind speed, so runners can check if conditions are safe to run. There are also checkup sessions for beginner runners, helping them find the right pace range and recommending routes that match their fitness level. Despite the sweltering heat, more and more people are lacing up their shoes and hitting the asphalt. For them, summer nights aren't just about beating the heat, they're about building community, pushing limits, and making the city their own. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
Now let's take a look at some stories from around the world with our Choi-ji. Good morning, Ji.
Good morning, Eun-ji.
So let's begin in Syria, where dozens have been killed in armed clashes in the country. Fill us in on this.
Sure. Sectarian clashes in southern Syria's Sweda region between fighters from Syria's Druze community and Sunni Bedouin tribes have left more than 80 dead and dozens more injured on Monday. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that at least 89 people were killed and dozens injured after armed confrontations broke out late Friday following a series of targeted kidnappings. The clashes were reportedly triggered by the abduction of a Druze merchant on Friday along the Damascus-Sweda highway. Druze fighters responded by attacking Bedouin tribal groups accused of involvement. The SOHR said the people killed included Druze fighters, Bedouin fighters, civilians, and security personnel. The country's interior ministry said national security forces have been deployed to the region to restore order. However, fighting continued in western parts of the province. This marks the latest outbreak of deadly sectarian violence in the country since Islamist-led rebel forces overthrew President Bashar al-Assad in December. Moving over to the United States, a fire at an assisted living facility in Fall River, Massachusetts, has killed at least 9 residents and injured dozens. Late Sunday night local time, a fire broke out at the Gabrielle House assisted living facility where 70 residents were living. Many of them had mobility issues and used wheelchairs and oxygen tanks. The 9 residents who died were in their 60s to 80s and were likely unable to evacuate without help. At least 30 others, including firefighters, were hospitalized. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey described the scene as unimaginable and credited first responders with preventing an even greater loss of life. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday sided with President Trump's administration, lifting a lower court injunction to clear the way to implement sweeping workforce reductions at the Department of Education. The injunction had required the reinstatement of nearly 1,400 employees dismissed in March as part of plans to dismantle the department. The court's unsigned order enables the Education Department to dismiss almost 40% of its staff, as originally planned under an executive order aimed at returning key duties to other federal agencies like Health and Human Services. Further legal challenges are continuing in lower courts. Finally, the first image from HBO's Harry Potter TV adaptation was unveiled on Monday, marking the start of production at Warner Bros. Studios, Leavesden, in the United Kingdom. The photo shows actor Dominic McLaughlin playing the iconic role of 11-year-old Harry Potter, characterized by the round glasses, forehead scar, and the Hogwarts uniform. Crews have already constructed a replica of Private Drive, where the story begins to faithfully accommodate the setting of the book for the 7-season saga. The actors who will play Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley have also been confirmed. The new TV series is expected to take 10 years to complete.
Rain clouds are moving across the country, and while heavy rain alerts for the East Coast have been lifted, this round of rain will continue on and off through tonight. And the eastern parts of Korea could see up to 60 millimeters of showers. The western regions, including the capital and Chungcheongdo, will see 10 to 40 millimeters. After rain takes a short break tonight, starting tomorrow, heavy rain is expected for the western regions, and it will continue into the weekend. And with frequent rain expected this week, we won't experience the intense heat we saw last week. Seoul, Daegu, Busan will be getting up to just 28 degrees, Gwangju at 29 degrees Celsius, but strong winds will continue nationwide. Rainy and cooler temperatures to dominate the rest of the week. Then starting Sunday, temperatures will begin to rise again, reaching heat wave alert levels next week. But beware of windy and rainy weather this week and stay safe and aware of your surroundings.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
어렸을 때 아버지가 클래식을 좋아하셔서 자연스럽게 공연장을 이제 가족들이 다 같이 가게 되었는데 그때 포피아노 연주를 제가 실제로 가서 봤었는데 그때 이제 너무 멋있다 생각이 들어서 부모님께 피아노를 하고 싶다고 졸랐습니다. 저조차도 누군가의 연주를 보고 이렇게 피아니스트를 꿈꿔왔듯이 누군가도 제 연주를 듣고 다양한 감정을 이렇게 느꼈으면 좋겠어요. 어쨌든 저는 21세기 사람이니까 21세기 트렌드를 또 잃으면 안 될 것 같아서 간혹은 또 가요나 팝송도 많이 들으려고 노력하고 있고요. 그러다가도 또 이제 다시 클래식으로 돌아오게 되더라고요. 그냥 클래식 음악은 진짜 어떤 시대에 들어도 누구나 공감할 수 있다고 생각을 해서 그래서 클래식 음악이 제일 마음에 와닿는 것 같아요. 지나바카오 콩쿠르에서 특히 2라운드 연주가 저는 항상 기억에 남는 게 너무 무서웠어요, 사실. 한 음만 치는데 다음 음이 뭐였는지 기억이 안 날까 봐 너무 두렵더라고요. 악몽을 너무 많이 꿨었고 연습을 하는데도 불구하고 끝까지 안 되는 음악적인 패시지라든지 테크닉적인 패시지들이 있는데 그게 무대 위에서 정말 무의식적인 세계에서 갑자기 해결이 되는 경우가 있더라고요. 그랬을 때 이제 희열을 확 느끼는 것 같아요. 제가 지금 공부하고 있는 곡들, 즐겨 연주하고 있는 곡들이 사실 클래식 음악을 처음 접하는 분들에겐 익숙하지 않은 곡들이지만 지금 제 나이에 가장 잘 표현할 수 있는 음악이라고 생각을 해서 그런 레퍼토리를 준비를 하고 있는 거니까 같이 즐겨주시고 같이 공유해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, July 15th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Cheska Tae-hong. Happy Tuesday, everyone! Happy Tuesday! Yay! And Tenny's also with us today.
Happy Tuesday!
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Tuesday, which means we're going to begin with our keyword news, where we look at a story that has been gaining traction over the past 24 hours. And today's keyword is esports. A Korean team has once again proven its dominance on the global stage at the 2025 Mid-Season Invitational, an international League of Legends tournament. Genji Esports on Saturday local time defeated fellow Korean powerhouse T1 in a narrow victory in the grand final in Vancouver, taking home the top prize for the second consecutive year. And the final, which saw two Korean teams go head-to-head, drew esports fans from around the world, reaching a peak viewership of 3.42 million, the highest in MSI history. So do either of you play esports, and what factors do you think contribute to Korea's continued dominance in the International League of Legends tournaments like MSI? Cheska, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. So I don't play the games, but I had one of the most interesting experiences that opened my eyes to the passion and the fervor of esports. So back in about 2019, I was a team translator / manager for a PEG Battleground, which is another very popular game here in South Korea, on a world championship that took place in Los Angeles. And while I was there, you talked about the viewership of almost 3.5 million people, right? I was amazed at the amount of people that would log in or that would watch this game, and the craziness that happened in the stadium just took me by surprise. And it almost gave me a sense of this weird pride that Korea team was doing so well. And as you mentioned, there are two Korea teams that are going against each other, which I think would be such an exciting event for a lot of Korean teams. And I do wish them all the best in the final round as well. Yeah.
So this is such a, I feel like, interesting experience that you had. And imagine, like, it's not the easiest, especially if you're not very familiar with esports.
Yeah.
Is there anything like interesting or like terminology that you ran into there?
That's so considerate that you asked that question. So there's this really funny term that I learned, which I think all the PEG players, the Battleground players, know. When you win, they call it winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Oh, chicken dinner.
Yeah,
that's
chicken
so
dinner.
Interesting. Okay.
So literally the chicken dinner, the words pop up on the screen, and everyone's like, yeah, we're eating chicken for dinner.
Because that is a great way to celebrate chicken.
It is. And Korea is known for fried chicken, so I was like,
true.
Is that why?
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about you, Titting?
I think it's because gaming is a huge part of our youth culture in Korea. Honestly, I didn't play it at all. But when I was a student, every boys in my classroom played that game, which is called LOL. So everyone talk about LOL. And
League of Legends.
I didn't know what is LOL, but I realized it was League of Legends. So even though I've never played it myself, I heard the name all the time.
Right, so even if you've never played League of Legends, it's like you can't grow up without actually hearing about it. So with back-to-back titles and record-breaking global viewership, Genji's win at MSI 2025 not only highlights Korea's dominance in the League of Legends scene, but also proves its global popularity. And that concludes our keyword news for this Tuesday. So as we head into the second day of the work week, we're diving into a topic that's especially relevant for pet lovers. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more. People may be having fewer kids these days, but more are turning to pets. It's becoming increasingly common to see a small dog in a stroller where you might once have expected to see a baby. But as the pet industry booms, so does the conversation around pet etiquette. New questions are emerging, especially about what counts as acceptable behavior for pets in shared spaces. Where do we draw the line between cute and inconsiderate? Today on News Generation, we're diving into Korea's growing pet craze and exploring how pet culture is evolving. As we just saw in the video, Korea's pet culture is rapidly changing and is sparking new conversations about how we live alongside our furry companions. For today's main discussion, we're diving deeper into this growing trend, exploring the rise in pet ownership, the challenges it brings, and how society is adapting. Cheska, so we're now in an era where about 15 million people in Korea own pets. So how about you? Do you have a pet?
Yeah, I actually do fall into the category of the 15 million people that do own pets, but my pets are quite unique. So I have a budgie and a betta fish. And the common theme in both of the animals, as you can see in the screen, that's my beautiful blue betta fish, and I have a budgie. So the common theme is they're super easy to keep, and they're on the more lower maintenance side compared to a lot of more furry animals. And since I travel very often for work, I sometimes leave my budgie with my grandma. See how proud he is with the puffed chest? And my grandma would take care of my budgie during the time. And I love taking care of it because they really are pet friendly, human friendly. So it's really easy to keep, but I also don't have to have as much responsibility when it comes to keeping these animals. Yeah.
So budgies are from what I know, parrots are native to Australia, and I heard that budgies as well as these betta fish are great for like first-time pet owners.
Yes, exactly.
What would you say makes it so easy for them to be kept?
So I think one of the things is when it comes to furry animals, you need to walk them, you need to actually watch them, and you need to spend a lot of time with them to build that connection. As you can see, the betta fish doesn't really care if I'm around as long as I feed it on time. And the bird actually cleans itself and eats on a regular basis based on its needs. So it's very, very lower maintenance. Of course, with every pet, you should be a responsible owner.
Right.
But for first-time pet owners, I would highly recommend just trying with a pet that you don't need to put as much effort into it. Yeah.
I see. That's a good tip for anyone who's looking for a pet. What about you, Cherin?
Yeah, I'm a dog person. So I've always lived my life, whole life, live my pet. So I raised my puppy for 13 years. So I had to say goodbye to her last year. So it was really heartbreaking. I was so sad. But a few years later, I recently welcomed a new dog whose name is Horsey, and she's there in the screen. So she's Pomeranian, and she's so white and so small. So she's adorable. And she brings a lot of energy into my life nowadays.
She looks really cute, so I can see why you really care about her. So Jessica, can you give us a quick overview of the current pet ownership trend in Korea?
So we do have a lot of growing population, and nearly 30% of South Korea's population now live with its dear companion animals. And this is actually a big rise from just under 20% in 2010. And the figure, I think, is expected to grow for multiple factors. And in my personal opinion, I think it's because with the longevity of people's lives, as well as increase in single households, as we talked a lot about here in News Gen. And it isn't just furry animals. The most popular are obviously dogs like Chenin's, but it's followed by cats, fish like mine, hamsters, and birds. But I do know that there's a growing number of very, very interesting pets like reptiles, rabbits, and I even saw the cutest duck. It was so white and fluffy. And the one I recently saw on Vlog was a hedgehog.
Oh, is that a vlog about a hedgehog?
Yeah, of how to keep a hedgehog as a pet. So you can see the diversity of pets growing in Korea as well.
Right. As a dog person, I can see why the dogs took the top spot. But it's really, like you said, interesting to see even hedgehog.
Yes, it's a dog, but it's a hedgehog. It's hedgehog.
You're right. That's cute. So Cherin, why do you think so many people are choosing to have pets, though?
Yeah, as Jessica mentioned, in Korea, more and more people are choosing to live with pets because the biggest reason is people generally love animals. Like me. And as the number of the one-person households continues to rise, pets are not just animals, they're like family. And they greet you when you come home, and they also give a lot of emotional support too. So they help reduce stress and ease loneliness and create a sense of a lot of connection as well. So many people in these days, raising a pet means choosing love and comfort and warmth at home.
You mentioned emotional support, and it kind of reminded me of like during exam season at my university, they brought in therapy dogs to help students de-stress. And I still remember these dogs and what they were such a great source of comfort as well. And I guess you experienced this too.
Yes, in the lawn, I definitely remember. Like they would bring in dogs and they would call like, come and enjoy a time with a therapy dog. And just like you mentioned. Oh my God, yeah, I do remember
and
that.
everyone would come and like pet these dogs.
That's the best therapy.
But lately, conflicts over pet etiquette have been making headlines. So it's not just all good news. So can you share some of the real life examples of the kind of issues that have come up?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, with the growing number of pet owners, the exposure and the frequency to these animals to non-pet owners have also increased. And we have to account for the fact that not everyone is pet friendly and they have the right to feel safe and protected. So here at Arirang, we've created a chart to show you some of the responsible guidelines every pet owner must be aware of, outlined in Korea's Animal Protection Act. Now let's take a look at the screen. Now leash, first of all, is very, very important. There have been incidents where dogs would bark or scare people or even run after people and worse, bite. So when walking a dog in public places, leashes must be kept within 2 meters. And also in communal spaces like building lift, hallways or elevators, dogs should either be held or kept close to their owner. Like I've had some instances where some owners would actually barricade the dog by standing in front of them. And owners are also required to immediately clean up after their pets. I just think this is very common sense. Clean after your mess. And if possible, ensure wearing an ID tag with the owner's name and contact just in case of emergency. And here in South Korea, Korea, violating these rules can result in fines of up to about 500,000 won, which I think would equate to about $400. And also letting a dog run free off leash in an empty area can result in penalties as well. And I just want to add that there's a common misconception that keeping a pet on a leash can seem cruel, which I completely understand. But I think what's more really cruel is that creating a very uncomfortable and dangerous situation for others as well as your pet. I think if you're an owner, your first priority is responsibility and safety of your pet as well as other people around you. Yeah.
I think that's a great reminder that being a responsible pet owner is not just about you or the pet, it's also about the people around you as well.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
So, Chae-Din, what's your take on these pet-related conflicts in shared spaces? Are there any specific laws or local regulations in place to manage these situations?
Yeah, there have been some heated debates around pet etiquette, especially in shared spaces. Recently, in Chungnam Yesan province, residents of one apartment complex held a vote on banning dog walking inside the property. So the reason is that some owners weren't cleaning up after their dogs. It led to a lot of complaints and hygiene and the appearance of the area. And in the end, the vote passed, but just by 2 votes. And now walking dogs inside the complex is officially banned. And this isn't the first time. Back in 2023, in Gyeonggi-do Seongnam province, there were similar cases too as well. It was about dog waste and even dog bite incidents. They also held a vote and introduced a rule banning dog walks inside the complex. But many people say such rules go too far because there are so many pet owners who follow the rules, and many people always carry waste bags like me and keep their dog leashed and under control. It is a common sense. And thing is, walking is essential for a dog's health and also mental well-being. So banning walks directly impact a lot of stress and health problem for the dog. So instead of punishing everyone for the actions of a few, I think we need better ways to manage them, like tax or financial restrictions or something. So we can give them a penalty, so both pet owners and neighbors can live together peacefully.
The thing is, when you just hear that an apartment complex has banned dog walks, it sounds a bit unreasonable and even extreme. But then, like you said, you did a great job explaining this. When you learn about what kind of led to that, like heated issues with dog waste or even dog bite incidents, it starts to make more sense. And it's a reminder that rules often come from real problems. And that's why it's really important to find that balance. And so the debate over pet etiquette continues to divide opinions, especially when it comes to shared spaces like residential areas. Some argue that stricter rules are needed to ensure public order, while others say pet owners deserve the freedom to care for their animals without harsh restrictions. So to get a sense of a public opinion, we conducted a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel, asking whether dog walking should be banned in residential neighborhoods. And here's what people had to say. The majority of respondents, 69%, said no, while 31% supported the idea. And so to explore this topic further, we'll be speaking with a dog owner from Germany, where pet culture and public etiquette are quite different from Korea. And the conversation is coming up right after the break, so stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Lisa Duda, dog owner from Germany. So hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for connecting with us today.
Hello.
So can you tell us about your pets? Thank you for coming in. So can you tell us about your pets, how long you've had them, and how did they come into your life? So what makes them special to you?
Okay, so I had multiple pets before, but right now I only have one, which is my dog, Ori. So I don't have a duck, but he's called duck in Korean. In Germany, I call him Auri because it's too difficult to pronounce. He's 5.5 years old and the Coton de Tulea, so it's a French breed. He came into my life in 2019. After I had like a traumatic event, so I developed an anxiety disorder, and I got him kind of like a therapy dog, but that backfired because it turns out that he has autism. So I have to take care of him a lot more than he can take care of me. Yeah, back then I did research for the breed and that I need a small dog and everything like that. And then I applied for him because he's actually a protected breed, so you cannot just adopt him, at least in Europe. And I had to do a character test too before I was allowed to adopt him. And I was actually the only person that applied for him that passed the test. So that's how he came to me. So I think it was kind of like fate and meant to be that we're together. But of course, nowadays, I know a lot more about dogs, and I'm not really happy that I chose to buy a dog instead of adopting. So.
Alyssa, you mentioned some of the really interesting points that we want to cover later on, but how common is pet ownership in your country? And we also want to know the pet culture, because you talked about the process of adopting or even buying a pet in your country. And what is the general attitude towards the pets in your country as well?
So it's very common. Almost every second household has a pet, which is not only dogs, like you said before, like birds, rabbits, cats are very common as well. And pets are also seen as part of the household or part of the family in Germany. But compared to Korea, they're still seen as animals and not as babies or children. It's more like really like part of the family, but still a different species. And I think the attitude is just like that it's kind of normal to have pets and animals around. So the education about pets and animals in general is a lot higher in Germany. And it's more like we know how to take care of animals a little bit more. There are almost no street cats in Germany and absolutely no street dogs. And every shelter we have is a no-kill shelter, so there's a protection law for that. And I think generally people like to take care of animals and have a connection to animals. And something that is not so usual in Korea is that I know quite a few people that also have horses or share horses with each other. And yeah, and for dog owners, it's a lot more common that they go to puppy school together with their puppy. And the difference between Korea is that in Germany, the dog doesn't get the main education, but the owner. And then the owner has to teach the dog. And in Korea, it's more like you send your puppy to school and they come back educated.
Very interesting.
Wow, it's really interesting. I should go puppy school too. I should try. So how does your government regulate pet ownership? Like, are there any specific rules or policies in place?
Yes, so that's a very interesting topic because Germany, I think, is very different from Korea. So, of course, we have the animal protection law that takes care of all of it. But as with every law, you have to say that not everyone cares about the law. Yeah. So, of course, it's the usual that people take care of animals and that they, that they are lawful people, but not everyone. There are a lot of differences to Korea. So there is a 2 walks a day policy in Germany, I think since 2022. So you have to walk your dog. You cannot keep them inside. And actually in Germany, it's super unusual to have dog toilets in the house. And the policy says twice a day for 1 hour, but not everyone has the time or the energy. A lot of people just do like 2 or 3 times a day for like half an hour. And also in Germany, we have a dog registry where your dog needs to be chipped and registered. And that is very important because you also have to pay a dog tax in Germany for where you live. It depends what type of breed it is, how you use your dog. So if it's a service dog, for example, you don't pay that. And how many dogs you have. It can be quite high. I think up to 500,000 won a year per dog. So it's quite high, but it's very important that you have it. If you don't have it, you can be sued. And like the police will come to your house, and in worst case, they can take your dog. And another very different thing is that we actually have passports for cats and dogs in Germany. So it looks like this, like a real passport. And there you have like several pages, but one, for example, is just like the description of the puppy or the cat that you adopted. And without this, you are not allowed to leave the country. And that is very hard because I live in Korea right now, and it's hard to get it updated in Korea because no one knows what it is. And it's hard to explain to the vet every time, like, oh, you have to fill in that and you have to sign that and give a stamp here. And they're like, wow, this is so complicated. Why do you do that? But if I don't have it, I'm also not allowed to go back to Germany with him. Wow. So I need to have it. And also vaccinations every year is also not mandatory, but very usual in Germany that we have it. And also insurance. Because we're German, for the dog, and if the dog destroys something as well. So that is something that may be interesting for Korea as well, because if your dog bites someone in Germany, the insurance will have to pay that. Or if they destroy something or run into the street and there's a car accident, that's all the insurance. So it's very important to have insurance in Germany. Yes.
I think that was really enlightening to hear how systemized things are in Germany. So we learned a lot today, thanks to you. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So we just heard from someone who shared what it's like to raise a pet in a different country, offering a glimpse of how things are done outside of Korea. So to wrap up our discussion today, from your perspective, Cheska, what are some changes or improvements that should be made to pet culture or regulations in Korea?
I think Alyssa really opened our eyes to some of the regulations, enforcements, even like having a passport, taxes that have been in place. And I know there are many countries, especially in the Western world, in Europe, that have higher regulations when it comes to mass breeding or sales of pet, as well as having regulations. And I really think becoming a responsible pet owner should have a great system that also supports it, because as much as one should enjoy having time with pet, it should not affect the non-pet owners, and also have the protection for the pet and the animals as well. So I think having these kind of regulations that Alyssa mentioned, and enforcement, high enforcement of penalty, I think is very, very important, because it automatically reminds the pet owners of the responsibility and the weight that they carry when they decide to adopt a life into their lives. Yeah,
I think it's really important to think of the different parties that are involved as well, like you said. So what are your thoughts on this, Cherin?
Yeah, I think as Alicia mentioned, the idea of the owner go to the pet academy is really a good idea. Right. I think we should try in Korea too. So also I think it's worth considering a pet ownership tax, because the idea is to encourage people to take real responsibility for their animals, not just emotionally, but for financially as well. So in the end, raising a pet is a choice, and it comes with a real responsibility. So we should recognize it.
So when you hear the word tax, people might feel a bit hesitant, but at least it pointed out like that it actually helps fund essential animal care and control services, and actually encourages responsible pet ownership. So there are good points to it as well. So as the number of pets continues to grow, it's clear they're becoming a bigger part of our daily lives. But with that comes a need for more thoughtful regulations, not just to protect the well-being of our furry companions, but also to respect the rights and comfort of those who may not feel the same way about animals. So finding that balance is key to building a truly pet-friendly society for everyone. We're also conducting a program survey that includes News Generation to better meet our viewers' expectations. So please visit us at www.arirang.com or on the Arirang TV mobile app to share your valuable feedback. By participating, you'll also have a chance to win Bluetooth earbuds and exclusive K-pop merchandise. So this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. A big thanks to Cheska.
Pleasure is always mine. Thank you
for coming in. And Cherin.
Yeah, happy to have me here.
And to all our viewers, thanks for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
TV is conducting an overseas TV viewer survey to provide you with a better global broadcast service. Share your valuable feedback on the Arirang TV website www.arirang.com or mobile application. Survey participants will be selected at random to receive special gifts. 2025 Arirang Overseas TV Viewer Survey. We look forward to hearing from you.
How to survive in Korea. One room. So, you're surviving in Korea. If you've signed a contract for a one room, obviously you're a pro. But the real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items, hanger, storage, or a hanger.